Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Chinmayam Vyapyak Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So welcome back, all of you. Happy New Year. And where we left off in our text, Shankara was drilling down on the idea we are not the body. The body cannot be the self. Over and over again, giving all the reasons why the body is fundamentally transitory. It is an object of cognition. It has qualities and characteristics. It is never the eternal Brahman, which is ever the knower. All right, so Aditi, will you help us out, please?
Of course. Sarvamatma Daya Gyatam Jagatastha Varaj Varangchamam Abhavat Sarva Bhavanam Dehanam Chatmata Kutaha. Everything sentient and non-sentient of the world is known to be self only. How can the body be the self when the whole universe itself is unreal?
So we have these two ideas which seem to be in conflict. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world, the Jagat, is illusion. Then we have Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily Brahman. Well, is it illusion or is it Brahman? Make up your mind. Yes. So what the scripture is saying is that what appears as name and form is consciousness alone. The names and form are like optical illusions, seen but not real. The rainbow in the sky, seen but not real. The bowl of the sky, seen but not real. The train tracks meeting in the distance, seen but not real. Now, this becomes easy to understand again if we go to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. In the dream, it is my mind, it is Chaitanya, it is the fabric of mind itself, the fabric of consciousness that appears as the dream body, the dream ego, the dream world, the dream thoughts and feelings. But every element of the dream is just me. The waker's mind appearing as the dream. Likewise, all this is just Brahman. It's all just God. Sarvamaya, Sarvamananda. It's all Maya. It's all bliss. The names and forms simply appear in it, but they're insubstantial. They're not separate from me and out there. So the practice that's implied is stand back. You are ever Sakshi, the witness of it all. Any thoughts about this? Next verse.
Atmanam satatam janan kalam naya mahamate prarabdha makhilam bhunjan no tvegam kurtumarhasi. O most intelligent one, spend your time in realizing the self at all times. While experiencing the fruits of past actions, you need not be anxious of anything.
Yes. So, prarabdha karma. What happens in the body, mind, intellect's experience is nothing more than the force of the past maturing. We live through it on what we call vyavahara, the transactional basis, our daily lives. We get our allotted dose of victories and defeats, conducive and non-conducive environments. But here Shankara is saying, put it on a back burner. And instead, focus our attention on realizing the self. Focus our attention on who am I? Family, job, house. What happens with it is all the force of the past maturing. It's in God's hands. There's a wonderful saying that comes from the 12-step traditions, which I love. And it says, we make the decision. It's a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Now, we are already in the care of God. What changes is I acknowledge that. I make the decision to drop the rock, to let go. It's all going to work out. What about Aunt Mary? What about my daughter? Prarabdha. They have their own karma. Be helpful if I can. But it's not our job to fix the universe. Any thoughts on this?
There's a poem, I think it's from the Buddha. It says, if you let go a little, you have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you'll be free.
Can you say that again a little louder to make sure the Zoomies hear it? It's beautiful.
If you let go a little, you'll have a little peace. If you let go of a lot, you will have a lot of peace. But if you let go completely, you will be free.
Yes. Perfect.
Mm.
Did you all hear that?
Yes.
All right, next one.
Utpanneapyatma vigyane prarabdham neva munchati iti yashruyate shastre tanirakriyate dhana. Even after self-realization, the prarabdha actions are not dissolved. This statement of the Shastra is being refuted now.
So this is one of the subjects that Shankara takes up exhaustively in Vivekachudamani. So in the Shastras, they divide karma into three categories. Prarabdha karma, the karma of the now. Sanchita karma, the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify. And agami karma, karmas of the future which we're setting in place now. The scriptures, the Shastras say that upon realization, the Sanchita karma, the karmas of the past are gone. Why? I've given up the idea that somehow it'll be better if I do something else. Karmas of the future are gone. I give up the idea I'll be happy when I get there, etc. All I have is the karma of the now. Then what Shankara goes on to say is this: well, the mark of the woman of knowledge is she's not identified with the body, she's identified with self. Therefore, how can I be affected by the conditions, the cause and effect of something that's not me? Then Shankara goes on further to say, well, actually, that's not the totality of it. Can I ever be affected by something that's fundamentally an illusion? Here we are in winter, walk outside on a sunny day, and because the sun is low in the sky, my shadow is very long. Ooh, I am very important because I have a long shadow. Summer, the sun is overhead. Oh, I'm going to weep. My shadow is so little today. Is the shadow anything substantive? Is it real? If my shadow falls in the gutter, am I soiled? If somebody stands on the head of my shadow, do I get a headache? So also, this body is conjured up by imagination. Can it really have a cause and effect past that's real? Now, let's see how Shankara breaks it down. Next verse.
Tattva jnanodayat dhurvam prarabdham naiva vidyate dehadinam masatyatva dhyata sapno vibhodataha. Just as the dream is unreal for the waker, so too, after self realization, the bodies are unreal, and therefore there is no prarabdha.
Yes. So again, Shankara invites us to look to the dream as an example. So in my dream, if I'm out sailing on San Francisco Bay, the cause of that is I got on a boat at the wharf and motored out until we put up the sails and we're now sailing around the bay. In the dream, there appears to be cause and effect. But when I wake up, I don't have an outboard engine in bed with me. Cause and effect was an illusion. I was working with a student a couple weeks ago, and he's had about 35 incarnation memories. At least one of them was a famous person. And this was very emotional, very real for him. That's why he's doing the job that he's doing, because he was this person in another life. He was born months after this other person died. Swamiji used to say reincarnation is the genealogy of the ghost in the post. I'm walking down Grand Avenue late at night and I see a mugger. And in my mind, I decide, oh, they were born in the projects. Probably this happened in the past, and their grandparents did this, and their great-grandparents did that. And then a car comes, and I see it's just a lamppost. There's no one really there. When we introvert the attention and notice the knower, the realization is that I'm the Chidakash, the space of consciousness itself. I'm not the ego, I'm not the body. Those are illusions conjured by mind. Well, then why did the Shastras teach it? It is useful for those who are caught in the web of ignorance. Just like for our ordinary transactions, Newtonian physics works just fine. But if you really study the very small quantum physics, Newtonian physics isn't so. You study the very large astrophysics, Newtonian physics isn't so. But Newtonian physics is useful. So also, when we're ego identified, the teaching of reincarnation with its cause and effect can help bring us peace. If I'm having a difficult life, teaching is you probably are experiencing the results of a past life and what happened there. If that will give you the understanding, oh, okay, I can accept it now, then it's useful. But it's not ultimately real. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Karma janmantara kritam prarabdha miti kirtitam tattu janmantara bhava punso nevasti karhichita. The actions of the previous or other births are known as prarabdha. For the realized, there is no question of other births, so the prarabdha also does not exist.
Yes. Vedanta thunders the doctrine of ajati. The self is never born. So the idea of the causes of prior births being the effect of what happens in this lifetime for the woman of realization makes no difference because it's not real. Again, when we dream, to the dreamer, we experience cause and effect. From the viewpoint of the waker, it's not real. Any thoughts on this? Go ahead.
It's very frustrating to forget and forget and forget and forget.
Such is the power of Maya. Such is the power of Maya and its power to cause the mind to forget. There's a paradigm that is articulated in the Recognition Sutras of Kshemaraja, and I like it. He attributes 5 powers to consciousness: a creating or manifesting power, a sustaining power, a dissolving or destroying power. We have that in Hinduism all the time. But he adds 2: a veiling power and a revealing power. I'm thinking of a song. Do you know what the song is? No. Veiling power. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Now you know the song, revealing power. So also, one of the powers of consciousness is it can seem to veil knowledge of reality from us and then reveal it. Happens at night. For the waker, we fall asleep. Veiling power. In that veiled state, the mind projects, and I have delusion. When I wake up, revealing power, just an illusion. So also, the mind is covered by avidya, spiritual ignorance. And I think I am this dream body. So if I tune up the mind, introvert my attention, who am I? Well, that's right, there's nobody there. Where did Susuli go? She wasn't real. Listen carefully. The difference between the dreamer and the waker is a gross shift. Boing. I wake up. The difference between ego identification and knowledge of the self, though profound, is very subtle. For the waker, when deep sleep comes upon the mind, The nature of that is the non-apprehension of myself as the waker. For the mind, when spiritual ignorance comes upon it, the nature of it is the non-apprehension of myself as Brahman. Wake up. Any other thoughts? Next verse.
Swapna deho yathatyasta sathevayam hi dehakaha adhyastatsya kuto janma janma bhave hi tatkutaha. Just as the body of a dreamer is superimposed, so too this body of the waker is also superimposed or illusory. Where is the birth for the superimposed? And in the absence of birth, where is the existence of prarabdha?
Yes. So, when you have the dream, do you remember your birth in the dream? To the dreamer, actually the dream is beginningless, meaning I can't find a beginning to it. I don't come to in the dream as an infant and then grow up. So also, the state of spiritual ignorance is beginningless. Doesn't mean just that it's very old. It means I never experience the beginning of my delusion. Part of the nature of the delusion is that it seems like it's always been this way and this is real. Ignorance has no beginning, but it has an end. You can wake up, wake from the dream, and you go, oh God, that was so vivid. So also, through abhyasa and vairagya, practice and renunciation, mind is made soft, pure. Then it is able to inquire into the nature of the self effectively. Koham, who am I? When I go looking for Jim, I can't find one. It is like shining a light on a shadow. It disappears. But there's something real that's there. Me. Did that self have any cause, any change, any effect? Any thoughts? Next verse. I think you're muted, dear.
Sorry. Upadanam prapanchasya mridharanasyeva kathayet ajnanam chaiva Vedante stas sas stasmineshte qua vichivata. Just as the mud is said to be the material cause for the pot, so too in Vedanta, the ignorance is said to be the cause for the world. When that is destroyed, where is the universe?
So the idea here is, as the result of Maya, this thing called mind shows up. The mind is the world is the mind. And here, Shankara is using the idea of the mud and the mud pot. If you go to India and out in the villages, I don't know if they do this anymore, whether it's so much more modern, but if you're outside of the urban areas and you go by what they used to call a tea stall, and there was somebody who literally made tea on the side of the road. And what they would do is they would form these teacups made out of unfired clay. They were sun-baked. And you'd get your tea in a little teacup. And it was recycling. When you were done, you just throw it down. So the teacup was made of mud. It didn't stop being mud. When you finished drinking your tea, back to mud. If you needed a water pot, you took the same mud, made a pot, baked it in the sun. If it were broken, back to mud. All it is a mud pot. All it is a mud cup. The material cause never changed. You have a whole bunch of antique gold jewelry and they're broken. So you take it to the jeweler and you say, there should be enough gold here for you to make me some really nice earrings. And the jeweler says, yes. Decide on the design. He says, come back in 3 weeks. So you come back in 3 weeks, he opens the box, and there's a box of silver earrings. What? I gave you gold. These are silver. Oh, no. The gold turned into silver. What would you do if the jeweler did that? You're a cheat. Gold remains gold, no matter the form. So what is it that is the material cause of all form? Consciousness alone. It is by Maya Shakti that it seems to appear as form. You've seen me bring out the crystal ball and the prayer stone. Both are stone. But the prayer stone is inert. It has no capacity to reflect. The quartz crystal ball is also stone, but it has the quality to have images appear in it. That's its Maya Shakti. So also, the material cause of everything is consciousness. Now, when we made our way through I Am That in the Sargadatta Maharaj, I was curious as what was the word that he kept talking about, that all this is just consciousness appearing as name and form. My word is Chaitanya. We got that when we looked at the, what was the name of the last book we did? The Final Teachings. So Chaitanya is just, it's like mind, it's the stuff of mind. It's the same as chitta here. It's the same as prakriti. Many, many different words to define how is it that that which is one without a second seems to appear as name and form. And just as when you break the teacup or you break the pot, the mud is never damaged. So also, nobody dies. Self in everybody is okay, even if they don't know it. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Yatha rajjum parityajya sarpa grihnati ve brahmat tadvatsa tasma vidyaya jagat pashyati murhati. Due to delusion, ignoring the rope, the serpent is seen. So too, forgetting the truth, the ignorant sees the world.
So we have the Raju Sarpa, the snake in the rope. Shankara does snakes and ropes, snakes and ropes, snakes and ropes. He's always doing that. To explain the phenomenon of adhyasa, superimposition. What is the substratum? What's real is the rope. But because of delusion, I mistake the rope for a snake. Because I think or believe there's a snake, I react to that. I'm frightened. I need to take action. I need to get out a hoe and kill the snake. I won't come near the snake. Tell everybody else, stay away from the snake. But the snake isn't really there. Where is the snake located? It's not on the ground. The snake is in my mind. That's where illusion, delusion takes place. How do I remove the snake? I investigate. And I see the snake isn't real. It's an optical illusion. So also, just as we are trying to kill the snake, confine the snake, tame the snake, you and I, when we're under the throes of delusion, try to fix the self, improve the self, heal the self. And Shankara says, you're dealing with a snake that isn't there. How can you fundamentally fix something that's insubstantial? Yeah, but the doctors say this, the psychiatrists say that, the psychologists say this. But they too are deluded. What does PhD stand for? Pretty heavy delusion. What does MD stand for? More delusion. They're dealing with snake bites, which are not real. Think they're real. And what we have to watch out for, does agreement make something real? If lots of people believe it, does it make it real? There was a time 600 years ago when virtually everybody in Europe believed the world was flat. You couldn't sail out into the ocean or you fall off the edge of the world. Did it make it true? No.
But it is hard to not be deluded when you commune and live with all these people in delusion.
Of course it is. What do you think the people on Columbus's ships thought as they were sailing out to sea? I bet many of them were terrified that they were going to fall off the edge of the world. It's hard. So, what are our brahmanas? Pramana means an authority as well as a means of knowledge. Is public opinion a pramana?
No. No.
Shruti, what do the scriptures say? The recorded evidence of the men and women through history who have traveled, who have crossed beyond Maya. What do they say? It's true, it's true, it's true. Shmiti. Our own logical reasoning. I was doing a class on second chapter of Gita in some people's home this past week. And this one fellow, very, very nice. And he was talking about my soul, and it will leave the body and then join with Brahman, and then my soul this and my soul that, and it will be joined with this. And I said, wait a minute, is this your direct experience or is this something someone's told you? How do you know you have a soul? What is your soul? Hey, well, this is what everybody told me. I have a soul. My soul's going to go to heaven. What in God's name is a soul? So be ruthless. Go to your direct experience. Who sees the cup? I do. That's yourself. That's your direct experience. Now, let us inquire into the nature of that direct experience. Using this logical, rational tool, that there's a distinction between the knower and the known, the seer and the seen, the subject and all the objects. I'm not a cup, I'm the fellow looking at the cup. And if I'm ruthless, if I set aside all superstition, all romanticized spirituality, to think rationally and logically, the body's not the self, the energy is not the self, the feelings are not the self, the thoughts are not the self. Ego sense is not the self. Who am I? Then my own direct experience. Oh, Jim, I looked inside and I saw a little person with wings. I have a soul, I saw it. Is that your experience? What is real? Real with a capital R. Sat. That which is. That which always is. That's yourself. But back to these 5 powers of consciousness. So you forget, get deluded. Wake up. Oh, gee, that was a vivid dream. I was identified for days and days. Is it any different than a dream at night? Oh, I'm so stupid. I had a dream last night. Do you ever say that in the morning? This is what your mind did. And we'll do the dishes. All right, next verse.
Rajjurupe parigyate sarvabhrantirna tishtati adhishthane tatha gyate prapancha shunyatam vrajet. When the reality of the rope is understood, the snake cannot remain. When the substratum is known, the world vanishes into nothingness.
When you investigate and find the reality of the rope, snake's not there. So also, when you rediscover yourself, the ego is not there. Understand the substratum of the phenomenal world. Your senses still report it, just like the mirage waters in the desert. The universe is no longer there as it used to be. Next verse.
Dehasyapi prapanchatvat prarabdha vasthiti kutaha agyani jana bodharyam bodhartham prarabdham bhakti vaishutihi. Even this body being a part of the universe, how can there be any prarabdha? The scripture talks about prarabdha for the easy understanding of the ignorant.
So Shankara is saying is it's like a fairy tale. The 5-year-old goes to her mother and says, "Mommy, where do babies come from?" And mommy says, "The stork brings them, dear. Eat your cereal." It's a way to pacify the mind of the child. Mommy, is Santa Claus real? Dear, Santa Claus is a mythological concept created by humanity's need to anthropomorphize generosity. So from that standpoint, of course Santa Claus is real. Can you say that to a 4-year-old? Santa Claus real? Oh, yes, dear. Santa Claus is real. So scripture teaches the doctrine of reincarnation. And for the person who's ego identified and has no capacity to drop their mind yet. It's a way to understand the joys and sorrows of this universe. Oh, so-and-so caught cancer. There are lots of different stories. Oh, God just hates them. That's why they got cancer. Do you want to have that belief? Life just sucks. People get cancer. No hope. Or do you want to say, endure it bravely. It's just the force of the past maturing. It's a useful concept to explain the suffering for those who are ego identified. It has a relative truth. Listen very carefully, especially for us Westerners, where reincarnation is not so deeply ingrained as part of the culture. You do not need to believe in reincarnation. It's not at all necessary. You can just look at it metaphorically. Susli, where did you grow up?
Guatemala. In Guatemala City.
Guatemala. That was her incarnation in Guatemala. Now you live in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Another incarnation. You can look at it simply as a metaphor for the change in circumstances in one life. Works perfectly well. And in the end, who was aware of the situation, the people, the places, and things in Guatemala? Who's aware of what's going on right now? That self is never in Guatemala. And it's not confined to open. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare bahutvam tannishedhartham shrutya gitam cha yat sprutam. When the Supreme is seen, all his actions are destroyed. The Shruti has clearly expressed the actions in plural to negate the Prarabdha also.
So fundamentally here, what Shankara is saying, when you see all the understanding around karma and astrology and prior lifetimes melts away.
Why do I feel like I'm trapped then? Like I want to be in the understanding and live consistently with the understanding. But I feel like I'm trapped here.
I get it. Did you all hear Susali's doubt?
Yes.
You are in Shloka 267 in Vivekachudamani. What Shankara says is, even after realization of the truth, meaning I've had glimpses of it, there exists a strong impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, which is the cause for rebirth. Rebirth here doesn't mean I'm coming back in another lifetime. It means I get re-identified. So that's your direct experience. Sometimes I know, and I forget. And I think I'm the doer and the experiencer all over again. Have I put my finger on it?
Completely.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do it, Shankara did. He says, this needs to be conscientiously rooted out. How? Through steady and continuous identification with the self. Whatever experience comes to me, to whom did this occur? To me. Who am I? I am the self. Over and over and over again. What holds the ignorance in place? Attachment, identification. I want my daughter too. I want my husband to. Now, the final part of that shloka is the annihilation of the Vasanas here and now is considered liberation by the wise. You still have Vasana. How do you know you have Vasana? Because at times you think you're Susali. It's very simple. Now that's Shankara's remedy. Now, I had a friend, a student, who was in Coimbatore for a month taking a japa retreat with a Chinmay Mission Swamini. And she gave a wonderful technique, which it would be interesting. I think I'm willing to share it with you. Her technique, and here they were meditating for 4 hours a day, using a mantra. You can use whatever technique you want. But her idea was, when you're in meditation, notice which thoughts arise repeatedly. That's where your vasanas are. That's where the work needs to be done. So in meditation, if you're thinking about food, got attachment to food. If you're thinking about your daughter, there's where your attachment is. Now listen carefully. Some people will read Tantra books or other spiritual books, and they will have the belief that you can be attached to the world, attached to people, attached to the ego, and have steady wisdom. It's not true. The price tag for steady wisdom is complete renunciation. Repeat that saying of the Buddha that you shared. I love it.
If you wanna let go a little, you will get a little peace. If you let go a lot, you get a lot of peace. But if you let go completely, you will be free.
Yes. There it is. There it is. And your psychotherapist won't agree with it. Your sound healer won't agree with it.
But they're still treating the person.
They're dealing with snake bites or a rope. No blame. If you want to go down those paths, be my guest. But the mind itself is an endless labyrinth. Well, after you've finished exploring all the causes and traumas of this life, you've got a million more to go through. What about when you were a slave building pyramids in Egypt? What about when you were a prince in India abusing women in the harem? There's no end to the mind from within the mind. Give up the mind itself. The way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. It's a paradox. Any thoughts? And all I can invite you to do is look to your direct experience. Yes, but don't we have to go through all these past traumas and these past experiences that come up? And what Swamiji would say when you have an upset stomach and you vomit into the toilet, do you then get down on your knees and pick the vomit?
blush.
All right, one more, then we'll quit.
Uchyate agyarbalachet tadanarthadvayagamaha vedanta mahathanam cha yato jnanamiti shrutihi. Still, if the ignorant persist about the existence of prarabdha, then they will involve themselves in two absurdities: impossibility of liberation and the futility of knowledge. And also they will be foregoing the declarations of the Shruti, which declares the possibility of knowledge.
Yes. So, if the karmas of yesterday have caused the vicissitudes of today, then in the midst of those vicissitudes, I'm setting up causation for the next life, and then the life after that. The end result is there can be no liberation from that viewpoint. And they see the futility of the knowledge of the self. Swamiji can't be liberated. He's walking around. Therefore, he has prarabdha. Therefore, there's some cause. Not free. Only dead people are free. But they're going to come back. Prarabdha, prarabdha, prarabdha. It's not what Shruti says. Shruti says, for the person of steady wisdom, who has knowledge of the self, who has retired into the self, cycle of births and deaths is gone. All right, we'll end here. What verse are we on for next week?
We'll start at verse 100.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aditi.
Thank you.
Now,